Good morning and welcome to City Council's pre-agenda meeting for Wednesday, May 29th. Today we have 3 appointees for consideration for the Clean Pittsburgh Commission. We have Rachel, Alfonso, and Sally. I will pass it off to you. I'm Councilman O'Connor. I'll be chairing this meeting for Council President Kraus. And now let me pass it off to the clerk to read the actual bill that's in front of us.
Bill 1647, resolution appointing Alfonso Salone as a commissioner of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission of the City of Pittsburgh for a term to expire April 30th, 2023. Bill 1664, resolution appointing Rachel Naraki as a commissioner of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission of the City for a term to expire April 30th, 2023. Bill 1665, resolution appointing Sally Stadelman as a commissioner of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission of the City for a term to expire April 30th, 2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will begin with Rachel. Just a little background. The Clean Pittsburgh Commission is very important to the city. It actually touches a lot of different neighborhoods. Right now they're focusing on a couple, but we at Council have actually talked about funding the commission a little bit more this fall so that we don't just focus on 1 or 2 neighborhoods, but we could touch all of them across the city. And it's something that's really important when you leave your house and you know that your neighborhood's going to be clean. That really gives you a boost, and I think that's why this commission is so important. So we'll start with Rachel and go right down the line. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. I'm Rachel Naraki. I am a resident of Ingram, PA. I moved here a year ago. I'm interested in serving this council. I came across the state border and I moved from New Mexico, serving at-risk youth on the Navajo Nation. Thank you. When I came across the border, I noticed an incredible, extraordinary amount of litter, and continued to be jaw-droppingly shocked as I drove into the city. I immediately did some research in the hotel just because I want to leverage all of my community organizing and grant funding and youth empowerment experience and expertise for this very visible issue. I found Allegheny Cleanways and contacted Myrna Newman and went to Clean Pittsburgh Commission. I've been at most of the meetings this year, serving also in Allegheny Cleanways and picking up litter in my spare time. I also founded Keep Ingram Beautiful, which is just a Facebook group, and we've picked up about, 200 tons of litter this year. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Sally?
Right. My name is Sally Stadelman. I am the Government and Community Affairs Liaison for the Department of Permits, Licenses, and Inspections. Also a resident of Perry Hilltop in the north side. And I'm here today because one of the most popular 3-on-1 tickets that come to PLI is for weeds and debris. We enforce private property maintenance, and it's an important tool for neighbors and residents to keep their neighborhoods clean. And it really helps us when we can coordinate with the police and Allegheny Cleanways and folks like our co-chair Alicia Carberry, in DPW and DOMI to be as effective as we can in that enforcement and in letting people know what resources are out there and available to them. So very much looking forward to continuing to work with everyone on those issues.
Alfonso, thank you.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Sloan. I'm a City of Pittsburgh police officer for the past 24 years. I'm a resident of Lincoln Place. I've been on the Pittsburgh Police Graffiti Unit for approximately 9 years. Being a part of that unit, we enforce the graffiti laws, and we interested in the cleanliness and beautification of the neighborhoods in the city of Pittsburgh. So I'm here. In the past, there's been a police representative on the commission, so I'm that person for now.
And you're from a good neighborhood. I don't think, Madam Clerk.
Absolutely.
We got a Lincoln Placer. See, finally. But I really don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for your willingness to do it. A lot of boards and commissions, it's hard to make a lot of the meetings, but I think with each one of your backgrounds, it would help the Clean Pittsburgh Commission, even if you're not at a meeting, to be able to contact each and every one of you. I think the police presence is very helpful when it comes to illegal dumping, as well as PLI. And then obviously if you're getting younger people involved, to get them to take pride in their neighborhood at a young age is really, really important. So thank all of you for your willingness to serve. The city and council appreciates you. And I will tell you that we will approve you next Tuesday's meeting. And then from there, you will be on the commission, and we'll see you at the Bob Awards next year and all the other great cleanup events that they have. So with that, I will adjourn this morning's meeting and tell everybody to stay tuned for a riveting 10 o'clock council meeting.
Good morning and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council Standing Committee meeting of Wednesday, May 29th, 2019. We've already had our pre-agenda meeting. Thank you for Mr. O'Connor for chairing that part. And now we are ready for public comment. Members of the public who want to address council, please come forward. You'll be giving 3 minutes. Start off with your name and either address or location. I will take this time to remind everyone that the rules of council state that comment is limited to matters of concern, official action or deliberation which are or may be before council. Profanity will not be permitted and order will be maintained at all times. In other words, their comment should be somehow pertaining to government. The green light means your 3 minutes has started. The yellow light means you have 1 minute to summarize. The red light means your time has expired. Please relinquish the podium. First speaker, please.
Cliff Christian, 1926 Webster Avenue. Ms. Harris isn't here. Just wanted to thank her. Like 10 years ago, I had an issue with, in my business, an embroidery company, that I had to go to her to get the people that I did the work for, which owed me $600. But fortunately, I wanted to present that to her one-on-one to let her know that I appreciate it, how she took care of that, and in a couple of weeks I got my checks. Second of all, Mr. Connor, I don't really know you, but I know your dad, and I've talked with him. Me and can't think of his name right up top. I always do this here. Walt Anderson. Me and him, I've sat and talked to your dad and looked him eye in eye. Very great guy and whatnot, you know what I mean? I'm so a little disappointed that I don't get the same thing out of my councilman, but hey, you know, everybody can't get everything all the time and whatnot. But another point that I wanted to make is, you know, they didn't cut the lot yet. It's this high, Mr. Lavelle. You know, it's this high now. I've been trying to get this cut for 3 years. I've been going through this here with my councilman, which he will not, and he only got it cut one time. I had to go to the mayor. He got it cut one time. And so now I'm here again talking with Ilysia Cranberry, which she is doing great work, and she's trying to get Mr. Knowledge to come out and cut the lot. I mean, come on, it's 4 foot high. It's ridiculous. But all the lots around my property are cut, but mine's. Go figure and whatnot. Also wanted to address you, Mr. Lavelle, on the fact that I was talking to Jack and his wife, Camille. They have the store on Webster, the laundromat next door. You probably don't know about it because you probably never even visited to even acknowledge whatever. Okay, but they were explaining to me how they were looking for some help in their business, that they needed someone to do something to move it forward. And I've talked to them, I see them every day and whatnot, and they called your office and they tried to get in touch with you. They tried to make things happen. And the way they describe it is like turning a blind eye. You turn your back on them, basically what they're saying. And you should go visit their store, or maybe you should talk to them, because it seems as though the problem that we're having is that our councilman, Mr. Lavelle, in our district, has no concerns about our people and what's going on. The small people. I'm a product of when they tore down the lower hill from Caldwell Street and built the Civic Arena. So I understand how this thing, how the wheels move in this situation. But I used to go to a committee man and get things done just by talking to him and telling him what's going on. So with that being said, I have to go downstairs and get some kind of paperwork so I can sue the city for destroying my property, which, I couldn't talk to you about because you turned your back on that also. So with that being said, I'll give you my other 8 seconds.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's enough time to adjust this thing, so.
You know exactly.
My good. So, hello, my name is Ilysia Grishman. I am a nationally recognized disability activist and have been using the Pittsburgh bus system for nearly 20 years. I'm here to talk about getting on and off a bus in a wheelchair. Picture, if you will, an average day in Pittsburgh. The sun isn't shining, people are parking like jagoffs, and you're waiting for a bus. Standard procedure would be 1, stand on the corner and flag down a bus. 2, bus pulls over to the stop and you get on. 3, at your destination, you pull the cord, the bus pulls over, and you get off. Here's how riding a bus works for me. 1, I get to my bus stop. There are probably a bunch of cars parked in front of it, which I can show you pictures of my bus stop this morning. This means that I often have to wait in the street for the bus to come, or else I have to find a way to instruct the driver to pull further ahead so I can board. The driver then lifts up the front seat so I have a place to park myself. 2, when I get to my destination, I try to push the special button to indicate that a wheelchair user wants to get off. Roughly 50% of the time, this button doesn't work, and I have to verbally tell the driver, hey, I'm getting off here. 3, when the driver gets to my stop, often it is once again someplace where they can't pull over due to parked cars or unsafe sidewalk conditions, so the driver has to decide whether or not it's safe to put me in the street or if they have to pull across to the next corner to let me off. Please tell me, how can an autonomous vehicle make these decisions? How can it know when to pull forward because of cars or because of uneven sidewalks? If my chair needs to be strapped in, who's going to do that? What if someone blind gets on and needs help finding where their seat is? How can autonomous shuttles provide the same level of service that our current buses do? And before you try to say that paratransit is a reasonable alternative, federal law mandates that I have equal access to all forms of transportation rather than segregating me to an alternative service. As things stand right now, the bus system adequately meets the needs of the community and is in good standing with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The autonomous vehicles aren't even close. Eliminating existing accessible services in favor of inaccessible ones violates federal law, and going forward with this plan for autonomous vehicles is an ADA lawsuit waiting to happen. So thank you for that, and since I have an extra 19 seconds, it's been a year. Not only did you not fix the accessible door into here, it's now more broken and won't open at all. How long does it take to fix a door? I deserve equal access to this room. Peace.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
I gotta go. Oh, sorry.
My name is Laura Weens. I'm the director of PPT. 2 weeks ago, Ziggy and I stood before you. We raised the concern that the Knight Foundation grant, premised on the idea of educating residents about why AVs were the solution to their needs, was PR and not, in fact, meaningful community engagement. To our surprise and your great credit, you heard us, and Councilwoman Cale Smith made the motion, which was passed to delay the vote on the grant disbursement to DOMI. We thank you for being both open-minded to our concerns and appropriately cautious in advancing this process. We have spoken with DOMI Director Karina Ricks in the interim, as was suggested. We see this grant as a catalyst for the long overdue conversation about this technology, but we need to do it right. We are here today to ask you, our city council members, to establish guidelines to ensure that these resources will be used to discuss all of the known or anticipated impacts that AVs will have to good middle-class jobs in the economy, to the environment, pedestrian safety, data privacy, and to public transit and mobility, particularly for the underserved. None of these impacts will happen in isolation, so residents must be given the ability to weigh them as a whole. Our city leaders have made the decision to subsidize the development of this technology through the use of our roadways as a test track, through the blushing pride in which our city advertises itself as a tech hub without regulations, through the $23 million new road DOMI is rolling out in the Mon-Oakland corridor, and all the city and staff time that's gone into our Smart Cities application. Actual deployment of AVs will require more costly investment into infrastructures, and taxpayers will foot the bill. So we are also calling on you to ensure this grant allows residents to evaluate these material costs against the pitfalls and benefit of AVs to decide whether they should in fact be prioritized over other known safety and mobility solutions. Here's the opportunity to finally ask the questions. New technology, for whose benefit? At whose expense? This isn't a conversation just about AVs, but our values as well. A recent report divulged that AVs discriminate when it comes to pedestrian safety. They are more likely to hit a black pedestrian than a white person. For some riders with disabilities, paratransit operators and operators are key. They provide door-to-door service. Underlying every assertion that AVs will expand public transportation is the fact that a driver will lose their job to save the labor costs with no just transition plan. For an undocumented immigrant, the visual and movement tracking data companies are collecting and selling is alarming. Perhaps these trade-offs will be worth it in the end. Perhaps the worst outcomes of AVs can be mitigated by a robust framework of regulations and incentives. But the AVs companies won't institute this framework on their own. They aren't guided by values around equity or mobility justice or environmental justice. Only we can be and should be. At the end of the day, if Pittsburghers, and not merely our elected officials, should decide to support AVs and design them to work for us, it will only be because we fully appreciate what we stand to lose. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Eric Borer, 4904 Hatfield Street in Lawrenceville. I'm the Advocacy Director of Bike Pittsburgh, a 3,500-member nonprofit bicycle and pedestrian advocacy organization working dedicated to making Pittsburgh streets safer for walking and bicycling. I'm here today to also leave a statement about the proposed $400,000 Knight Foundation grant money that will be used to demystify the public about autonomous vehicles, technology that quite frankly doesn't exist yet. It's worth mentioning that our attempts to demystify the public about bicyclists and pedestrians, real Pittsburghers that exist today, have been met with a fraction of the public relations support. We're happy that DOMI is proactively working on solutions for what the potential introduction of AVs will do to our city, and share the Knight Foundation's concern that, quote, we risk designing cities for new kinds of cars rather than for people. We do, however, have our own concerns with this grant, so I'm here to testify and hope that the city of Pittsburgh will address these concerns, assuming the city receives the money. In early 2017, shortly after the first autonomous vehicle began driving in Pittsburgh, and again in 2019, Bike Pittsburgh launched a public survey to gauge how people felt about sharing the road with robot cars. Over 2,000 Pittsburghers responded over the 2 years, leaving us with a wealth of information about the day-to-day interactions with AVs, both positive and negative. The data revealed many interesting findings. For instance, how bicyclists in particular actually felt safer sharing the road with AVs than they did with human drivers, which may tell more about Pittsburgh drivers than AVs. Additionally, the results revealed some patterns that left us with some serious concerns, namely that we found that AVs tended to pass bicyclists with less space when next to bike lanes, and how they didn't often yield to pedestrians in crosswalks. There were even reports about how, in one case, an AV passed a bicyclist so close that the side view mirror struck the rider, and in another, someone ran into the tracks on Railroad Street, resulting in a crash and broken arm. Neither incident was reported to the police. One trending comment that we saw over and over was how, when these incidents happen, that there was no one to report the information to. The cars don't have a "How's my driving" sticker on them. The city won't keep track unless there's a crash, leaving the AV companies accountable to no one. Lacking a place to report interactions, both good and bad, we decided to start our own reporting form found on our website. This is a real need for real people. We've shared our data and analysis with academics, AV companies, national and local media, other cities, and even a DARPA project, yet we saw little to no interest from planners in our own city. In Tempe, Arizona, we've already seen the first fatality due to an autonomous vehicle. It was sad, yet not surprising, that Elaine Hertzberg was a pedestrian walking with a bicycle from a bus stop. There are numerous articles about how AVs may never solve the bicyclist and pedestrian problem. Dialogue and communication is good, but our experience leaves us with concerns about the intention of the grant. We want to make sure that it's used in a productive way that focuses first on the safety of existing residents and not just on public relations campaign to make us forget about the real safety, congestion, and environmental challenges that arise due to testing AVs on public roads. We need to have honest conversations about the impact that AVs will have on real people and the design of our streets. We need to make sure we end up with a city built for people and not just cars. These are big dollars, and we need to use this money wisely. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Randy Francisco. I am here on behalf of the Sierra Club. I'm here to support PPT's efforts, our goal is to generally reduce vehicle miles traveled. We really have a need for a deeper conversation around this. This grant seems to be set up to sell this to the public, and it's not that we need it sold to us. We need to have a conversation about what best meets our needs. how will this affect our community? One of the things is there are a lot of folks that have been historically left out of these conversations. They're not necessarily at this table. We need to make sure that happens in a real and honest way. Where are the resources coming from? Where are they going? The jobs, of course, which has been talked about. One of the things I've looked at EVs, or the autonomous vehicles, generally what I see in my vision is actually more cars on the road. Not with shuttles, but because people are taking autonomous vehicles that would be taking transit, where if we put investments into our actual public transit system first, that would take a lot of cars off the road. Whereas if everybody's taking Ubers and Lyfts everywhere, then that's just more cars on the road. That doesn't get to our goals. And the final thing I want to bring up is who's actually profiting from this? From what I see from this particular project in the run, the benefit is all going to UPMC. Is the general public going to benefit from this, or is this another giveaway to UPMC to get their employees to work? That's a question I have too. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Steve Polonis. I'm the president and business agent of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 85 here in Pittsburgh. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you today about the growing interest and even fears of autonomous vehicles and the need to have more thorough discussion and investigation into the impact of those vehicles in our community. However, before getting to that conclusion, we must ask what regulations are in place to allow these vehicles to be on our streets, using our streets and roads as a test track, basically. There must be a vigorous and open debate over what type of regulations should be in place before they are permitted to continue the possibility of killing citizens and bike riders. Think about the elderly. First off, many do not have the technology to even call for a driverless vehicle. Second, if you are your elderly mother, grandmother, or you, for instance, I ask you, for instance, would you feel comfortable getting in a car with no driver in it? I think not. More importantly to me, because of my position as the leader of an organization with well over 2,400 members, what happens to their jobs? The community must take into consideration that when these individuals lose their jobs, the entire community loses sources of income because wages, which our members make, are plowed back into the community in which they buy goods and services for. We seem to forget that a shrinking workforce will result in a shrinking economy. For many years, we have advocated for more money is needed for public transportation, and any funds city, county, state, or federal government have should be dedicated to that particular purpose, public transportation, mass transit. Our rail system, for example, should be expanded so it runs where it is right now currently to Oakland, East End, and areas out by the airport. If we're going to spend additional funds, it should be not on autonomous vehicles driving through our seats. It should be funneled into the transit system we currently have, expanded so we can serve our community and allow the community to grow. There's no question that there is to be real growth in our region in expansion of mass transit system. I'm looking at the time. Finally, I'm calling on you, City Council, to set conditions for this grant. Namely, that it be used to hold holistic public conversations about impacts of AVs, including the impact to labor, our region, economy, and our tax base, revenue, access and mobility for senior citizens, other transit-dependent riders, and public mass transit more broadly. Moreover, we should evaluate its cost to the public and compare more conventional transportation needs. I thank you for the opportunity to address you today. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Okay, there's supposed to be one more. I was just not here. Okay, my name's Ted Keeler. I live at West Run Road in Munhall. The reason I'm up here, I'm talking about the importance of an operator. I have been an operator for Port Authority for 30 years. My biggest concern of not having an operator is passenger safety. You know, if there is an emergency medical thing, it's going to take a while for somebody to call. Right now, the operator's there. The operator can make the call 1, 2, 3. And when there is a medical emergency, seconds are precious, okay? Another thing is when you have an operator in the vehicle itself, it deters crime. I'm talking assaults. Yes, there's going to be cameras, but the cameras only work after the fact. When you have a medical emergency, you definitely want seconds. You want somebody right there. They're not going to be manning these cameras 24/7. An operator is a tour guide, a bartender. We assist the handicapped. We assist the senior citizens. Some of the things we do for our visually impaired passengers. We've got a lot of passengers on the bus who don't know exactly where they're going. We assist them. Certain critical areas when we drop them off, we actually assist these people walking across the street so they can do it safely. Like the one lady said about the wheelchair. When we drop wheelchairs off, we drop blind pedestrians off, we're looking for a safe place to drop them off. We're looking around the situations. We're not going to drop them off in a place where they can get harmed. And like she says about the traffic, about pulling up and looking for a car, that autonomous vehicle is not going to be able to do that. There's times that we tell people to move up the next block, I'll get you around the corner. And another thing we do for the senior citizens, we actually assist them boarding the buses, actually assist them with packages. We do a lot. The operator is really important. Thank you.
Good morning. H.P. Jackson, Howard Phillips Jackson, Hazelwood Bound, Center of Life, BPEP, Black Political Empowerment. Basically, the story is handicap issues, let's say human rights issues, all right? You get mad sometimes every time you go ahead and make a phone call to go ahead and handle your bills and personal situations, and you got a robot there talking to you, okay? And you need that human touch. Basically, I've been explaining about human touch, and here we are going into a generation again. You got robots controlling your life. Okay, there's nothing wrong with to excel on moderation, but the human touch is so important, all right? And I basically done observed the issue here. And we all know the situation. You never know how that feels until you're handicapped yourself. Although, like, we're human, we'll go ahead and help somebody and feel good about ourselves because we assisted somebody. But understand, when you get disabled and you need that human touch to go ahead and inspire you, like spiritually, physically, you know, it's very personal. And I see all this. You know, we need to go ahead and invest to go ahead and really help the human touch issues, all right? There's been, disagreements on health care. You know, we done observed that, you know, because it's done came to rich and poor right now in a situation. Example, what happened in Atlanta. Okay, you're looking at what happened in East Liberty. How people had their homes taken away from them because prosperity, rich and poor issues again. Housing authority is not owned by anybody. There's hardly any handicapped situations to go ahead and assist people. It's about like grab and get what you need. And other human people don't exist anymore. That's why we have to go ahead and interact with our young people again to understand that spiritual format. We've been looking for spiritual format, and everybody knows what's right and wrong. But are you going to put money first or human life first? All right? You know, there's a way to intervene, to go ahead and make these things happen in the city. All right? Yeah, we need these sidewalks, but understand what I'm telling you about. When you find out you're handicapped, it's another ball game. Just like when children's parents see another child being shot and killed, they don't concern about it until it happens to them. I'm just making these examples here. And I appreciate you, and thank you.
My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I live in the Hill District. I came down today. I was here yesterday, but I want Mr. Jenkins, in case he might watch City Council, to again realize that we're saying thank you. You ran against Sapala. He got 40% of the votes. First time. Black man, 40%. I'm saying this because my mother, when she died, she was 92 years old, but she explained to me that nothing beats a failure but a try. Don't you believe it? I believe it. Now, also, I came down today because I heard on the radio, there was a black woman, a host, and she was saying that they had the great race. I hear people complaining about in their neighborhood, but it brought money. Then she said that people complain about PPG Place, all those activities they have down there. Don't complain because it's getting money. Well, PPG, that's our neighborhood, okay? We ain't getting none. And then you know what? I'll tell you, every time I see a game or something from PPG, I get mad. Because you know what? We try to get up the hill, the policeman will stop. He don't go with the light. So he may stop and let a group go. Then there may be a little woman way back there. He'll wait. He make us wait. So it may be 10, 15 minutes to get up to the top of the hill. I'm not kidding. And then I used to go up Bedford when I had the car. I came from Northview trying to get up here. After a game, them cars was going boom, boom. The light did not change for about 5 minutes, and I looked at and seen the man standing over there. I hollered, hey, I want to get home too. Do you understand when they come down here, we're disrespected, but they say, we're making money. Look, the old people up in the building where I live, Kaylee Irvis, we can't get the bus down to the hospital. And you know what? The old people up there, they're upset because they're saying they need parking space. They're going to tear our building down. I'm saying this because the old people believe it. I asked for a meeting. You would not come. The mayor did not come. The old people want you to come. Do you understand? They're handicapped. Some of them 80, 90 years old. Some of them can't walk like me. I'm looking out for the ones that can't do it. Just like he said. Just like he was a soldier. But just like he said, we need love. We need touch. Do you understand that people can't get to the hospital? And I think I'm a little bit upset because we just had a lady die. An older lady, but she went to the hospital and she said to me that the doctors are doing with the medicine, they say they can't give them the strong medicine. She said, but I'm in pain. They won't give her the medicine because they say that they're giving out too much. She said, I'm in the hospital. Why couldn't they give me the medicine? See, I'm living there and I'm seeing. Until you walk in my shoes, don't tell me about what I say down here, especially to this so-called reverend, because you know what? I am subject to same-race discrimination. These black men, our elected officials, they discriminate against me and our poor neighborhood up in the hill.
Any other speakers?
Good morning. My name is Celeste Scott. I'm the Housing Justice Organizer for Pittsburgh United. And I just came down today to talk about the Housing Opportunity Fund that you will be voting the 2019 allocation plan out of committee today. And so just to say that we're lifting up keeping the income targets the same as the fund progresses so that the fund tangibly impacts those most affected by the affordable housing crisis, that we continue to have the robust and inclusive advisory board, which really was a great community process as we went along this year, that we continue to have the community control that really makes the fund equitable, and that the fund has citywide impact, And so I just wanted to thank council and thank the advisory board, thank the Housing Opportunity Fund staff that we've been working with. Our Housing Justice Campaign has really had a good experience around community voice and what really went into making sure this allocation plan lifted up the people. And so we also wanted to support our partners, Pittsburghers for Public Transit. We see what it really means to have things that are people-centered. Everything should be people-centered in the city. So we want to support them as they come down and fight for an authentic voice around mobility, because housing is a human right as well as mobility being a human right. So we want to support that, things being people-centered and the community having a real voice, not just a seat at the table, but a decision-making voice in things that affect us. So thank you.
Support what Celeste just said. I'm Joanna Deming with Pineview and Berry Hilltop Citizens Council. I also serve on the Housing Advisory Board for the Housing Opportunity Fund. I'm here on behalf of FCC and PHCC in support of the Housing Opportunity Fund allocation plan. The URA staff and the advisory board, with all of your support, we've made a lot of progress in under a year. The money is starting to get out the door. The parameters and regulations are in place now that will make the process a lot more quickly in the future, actually spending the money. But the good thing is that it's starting to reach our neighbors, and if we can keep the momentum, we can keep in a timely way, we can reach more and more people quicker. So I just want to encourage you to pass the allocation plan for the Housing Opportunity Fund. Thank you for your support, so we can continue to support our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dr. Ronald N. Miller, Vancouver. I'm a Global Intelligence Society candidate for President 2020. I can be reached at cgsii.rlm.globalintelligence@gmail.com. The London School of Economics, London, England, United Kingdom, Department of International History. I worked at the LSE with Dr. Iannish, the world's foremost expert on the Nichi-A Dome, 1902, which was the first alliance between an Occidental and an Oriental nation. We need, as I've said repeatedly here, a Nichi-Bay Dome, an alliance, a formal legal alliance between the United States and Japan, not just a trade deal. A general council concern has had to do with the United States and Japan and the relationship between Pittsburgh and the sister city. And I assume that that means that you want to understand Japan and the Japanese from their point of view. I see very little evidence in this council that you want to do that. I don't know any of you, perhaps you do, who know Nihongo, the Japanese language. It is very important that you do. A couple of years ago, you had people here from the sister city, and it was very awkward because you didn't know quite what to do. Japanese think we're crude, just generally speaking. They don't think we understand subtlety. That was very clear in the interaction to me between Abe-san and Mr. Trump, which is the reason why I focused yesterday on Naruhito and how Trump dealt with him in relationship to Abe. I want to clarify this in a little more subtle way. The post-World War II Constitution denied the emperor's divinity, a denial that infuriated and infuriates Nihon Shinto purists then and now. It is a denial informing Abe-san's refusal to object to ultra-Shintoist objection to Tenno divinity denial. And in so Japanese a fashion, indirectly affirming Naruhito's divinity by not affirming his denial, and by indirectly involving, in my view, an informationally oblivious and an intelligence obtuse Mr. Trump in this non-direct affirmation of the Naruhito Amaterasu, sun goddess, fusion. That's subtle. When we deal with people who are from Japan, people who are Japanese Americans, we're dealing with people who indicate, who by indirection show us what they want, and we misread it. We need to do much better on this.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker. See no other speakers.
No, because then the phone's coming. That new face, they don't want you.
I'm Helen Gerhardt. I live at 7447 Pinfield Court in Pittsburgh, and I am here to represent Just Harvest, which works for better policies to help prevent poverty and hunger. So we stand in strong support of the good work that has been done in terms of the Housing Opportunity Fund, and we ask you to continue to support the income targets that are will benefit those most affected by the affordable housing crisis, that you continue and increase resources for consumer programs, including the Home Stabilization Program for rental assistance and homeowner assistance for owner-occupied home rehab. We also ask you to continue to support a robust, inclusive advisory board, community control, which will help, and that you support this fund actually having citywide impact. That need for a robust, inclusive process, we also very strongly support the use of the Knight grant being used not simply for PR to convince the citizens of this and the taxpayers of this city to get behind something that is definitely for the profit of a few private companies in most cases. We need to have a real conversation about the community impacts. So the loss of jobs, we've seen a massive loss of jobs already because of automation. We need, as a community, to talk about the ways in which we make decisions about which technologies we use and for whose benefits. This city is very much out of compliance with the American for Disabilities Act. As someone who served on the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations, I have all kinds of concerns about the blatant violations of ADA by many of the companies who are promoting autonomous vehicles, and I urge this city council to get behind real movement forward so that we actually uphold the civil rights that we say we stand for. We also need to be thinking about the effects of climate change, which will affect low-income people the most. And autonomous vehicles, there's all kinds of studies that show that this can lead to greater congestion, greater sprawl. We need to be planning for multimodal transportation systems that allow for cities, dense cities, that allow us to get ready for changes that are happening fast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Sandberg. I am the Director of Policy, Pittsburgh Community Reinvestment Group. I am also regular rider of the 75, 87, 81, 82, 83. I cycle 2,300 miles a year. I'm a reformed engineer and also professional loudmouth. So thank you for your time today. I was asked to testify on this issue, and at first I hesitated because I'm of two minds on the issue of autonomous vehicles here and what we're trying to accomplish as a city. On the one hand, one side of this is, could this make things safer? As a cyclist, I seriously wonder about that whenever I'm on the roads, particularly off-peak or actually in the evening when driving is particularly aggressive. On the other hand, what are we really doing to our cities? I think a lot when I think about autonomous vehicles and what I sometimes refer to as the dot car era as sort of the Interstate Highway 2.0. I think about what we did to this city that was designed to walk and to bike and to take the streetcar in whenever the automobile became ubiquitous and we force-fed it into corridors that then destroyed neighborhoods. I think about how we suburbanized neighborhoods, forcing people to move out in the gentrification 1.0, I'll call it, of urban renewal of the 50s and 60s. I think about whether or not these vehicles actually will make our roads safer and less congested, and who it does it for. I want to read a quote from one of the articles here from a tech magazine, no place. Find the quote here, sorry. The efficiency of our transportation system doesn't improve simply because the cars will drive themselves more efficiently than we can. Under the best case scenario, those who study this have said, under the best case scenario, vehicles will be moving around on our roads 30% more often than they are now. In a lot of cases, those cars will be empty. There's even a term for that. It's called a zombie car. Under the worst case scenario, it is more than twice as much road time. We have to consider here in this whole discussion about shared use mobility, what is actually going to happen? What is it that we as a culture expect from our transportation assets? We have been brought up to think that transportation comes when we want it, how we want it, and where we want to go. That is why over 240 million cars exist in the United States. Is that going to change simply because now a processor moves my car around? Am I willing to share that ride with somebody? On the flip side of that, are we going to use this technology to correct the ills of the past, burying those who are low income and communities of color up in hills where we dare them to live without a car, where mass transit costs often $8 to $9 per passenger per trip to operate for the Port Authority? We need a mass transit system first, we need a community discussion first, and we need a values discussion with this funding, which we should take advantage of.
Next speaker, please.
Hi. Somebody left there? Okay. Very nice, by the way. My name is Ilysia Sims. I am the president of the Coalition of Organized Residents of East Liberty, Incorporated. I want to put my 20 cents, 2 cents isn't enough, in favor of the Housing Opportunity Fund, and I put the emphasis on opportunity. It gives low to moderate income residents a chance to be a part of the decision-making process, not the recipients. It gives an organization like CORE, a non-resident registered community organization, a chance to participate with the Section 3 initiative to provide employment for low to moderate income residents of the community on the construction sites in their community, and possibly be able to afford some of the housing that is going into the community. Great job, guys. Keep up the good work, and I hope it continues in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Josh Melora. I'm the community organizer for Pittsburghers for Public Transit. We are Pittsburghers for Public Transit is a transit riders union who advocates for transit riders, of course, as well as bus operators and mechanics. PPT believes that transit is not just a civil right, but a human right. But many people are being denied that right because of rampant housing speculation and gentrification. Has been forcing them out of their neighborhoods, with access to transit. We believe that the Housing Opportunity Fund is just the first step in fixing this colossal injustice, but it can only do that if it meets these main points. It must have robust, inclusive advisory board that reflects the people that HOF is supposed to assist. It must be controlled and is audited by the community. It must have a citywide impact. There needs to be continued and increased resources for consumer programs like home stabilization, homeowner assistance programs. And it has to keep the income targets the same as the fund progresses so that the fund tangibly impacts those most affected by the affordable housing crisis.
Hello again. My name is Iggy Edwards, and I live in the Run. I'm here to continue discussing the $410,000 Knight Foundation grant. You've heard my opinions on the intent behind the grant and the problematic Mon Oakland Connector plan. It's a shame the Knight Foundation has no incentive for deep engagement in repairing the hazardous conditions along Irvine Street, for example. However, I have not been holding out hope for that outcome and have operated under the assumption that you would accept the grant. Thank you for defying expectations 2 weeks ago. Once again, I sincerely hope you consider my words today. This discussion brings an opportunity for the voices of Pittsburgh residents to interject in conversations that have been happening without us for a long time. We deserve real transparency and real community involvement in technology and development projects. Today, I'm proposing acceptance of the Knight Foundation grant with 4 specific conditions. 1, outreach will address the full range of consequences of adopting today's autonomous vehicle technology in today's city. We are not interested in idealized spin about how AV will meet our needs when we lack decent sidewalks. Similarly, development issues cannot be untangled from concerns about housing speculation and resident displacement. 2, funding from this grant or the $23 million for the MOC will support a Mon Oakland Connector environmental and community impact study conducted by an independent third party. Resident-approved experts must have the opportunity and resources to evaluate MOC plans. 3, and this one's important, an immediate halt to development activities specifically tied to the MOC. What is the point of having this discussion if the outcome has already been decided? 4, funding will provide real opportunities for residents to evaluate and shape plans that affect our communities. This means a full accounting of MOC plans is made public. All parties with financial interests in the MOC are made public. All meetings tied to the MOC are open to the public. These meetings are announced with at least 14 days' notice to accommodate working people. Meeting presentations are distributed at least 14 days in advance so participants can arrive with informed questions. Meetings include a Q&A session where every attendee can join the discussion. A full accounting of public funds to develop and promote the MOC plan is made public, as detailed in right-to-know requests filed with the city and the URA, and going forward, the report stays public and up to date. This is what community involvement looks like. Our demands are not unrealistic or unreasonable. Most are not new either. We delivered them to Mayor Peduto in a 2016 petition that garnered nearly 500 signatures. We reiterated them in an open letter to the mayor on April 18th, which you all received as well, but so far we've gotten no response. Last time I was here, I said city officials ignore us because the plan is for us to go away. I hope you surprise me again and adopt our conditions for the Knight Foundation grant. Thank you. And I have hard copies of the letter here that I would...
Are there any other speakers? Once. Any other speakers going twice?
Press the green button.
No, you don't push
Okay.
anything.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Graham Robinson. I am a resident of Brighton Heights, 3422 Massachusetts Avenue. I'm here as a realtor in support of the Housing Opportunity Fund. As a community member, I participated in the feedback sessions to help actually draft the Housing Opportunity Fund. I gave feedback, and I actually teach a portion of the class that's required by participants or recipients of the Housing Opportunity Fund, and was the first realtor to close a transaction utilizing the funds. So I have a unique vantage point that I've been able to see the fund literally from beginning through implementation, and can say as a realtor and a city resident that this is a program that is putting people on a path of wealth building within the city of Pittsburgh like nothing else that I have encountered as a realtor. I think that this program was organized in such a way that it listened to a variety of people in a variety of industries to make sure that the implementation was spot on. I definitely think there are areas where there can be improvement, but my primary concern is to my clients who, without this fund, would have been able to purchase homes at a much lower rate outside of the city of Pittsburgh. So I am standing before you today as an outsider in the realtor community because the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Association of Realtors rejected the funding of this fund through the increase in the transfer tax. I believe that they cited the reason for the rejection was because it would hurt realtors. That is false. It helps realtors because it increases the number of buyers in our city that otherwise would not have had the opportunity to buy. It also is interesting. I want to close with this because there's a part of the preamble to our code of ethics that realtors abide by. And this, I think, very much connects to the Housing Opportunity Fund. And it says, under all is the land. Upon its wise utilization and widely allocated ownership depend on the survival and growth of free institutions and our civilization. Realtors should recognize that the interests of the nation and its citizens require the highest and best use of the land. And this is the part I want everybody to listen to. The widest distribution of land ownership. They require the creation of adequate housing, the building of functioning cities, the development of productive industries and farms, and the preservation of a healthful environment. As a realtor, I ask you to continue to support this fund, the funding of this fund, so that we can bring more people to the city of Pittsburgh.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? Going once, going twice. Thank you very much. That takes us to the roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Gross? Mrs. Harris? President Kraus? Mr. Lavelle? Mr. O'Connor? Mrs. Kell-Smith? Mrs. Strasburger? Reverend Burgess?
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you very much. That takes us to the Finance and Law Committee, which I am the chair. We have a recommitted paper.
Bill 1338, ordinance amending, supplementing, and correcting the Pittsburgh Code at Title II, Fiscal Article 1, Administrative Chapter 219, Operating Budget, so as to add contract and bid information requirements to fiscal impact statements and to further correct numbering and formatting.
Need a motion, Ms. Smith?
A motion to hold 2 weeks.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. We have a new paper.
Bill 1689, resolution authorizing the mayor and the Office of Management and Budget to enter into a grant agreement with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to accept funds from the ARC for activities in relation to the Associated Master Plumbers of Allegheny County Training Facilities Renovation Project, and further authorizing the Director of the Office of Management and Budget to expend said funds for this purpose.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve with this brief discussion.
Second.
Second, Ms. Smith.
I just want to thank the administration and the state for allocating these funds. This was a closed school building in Sheridan. We were able to repurpose it into a master plumber school for the community, and it is a ton of money is being spent in that area. It's some of the most significant investment in Sheridan in decades. And one of the things I'm most proud about is since we've received some funding, additional funding from Governor Wolf on training, they'll graduate one of their first class with a 95% minority participation. So I'm really excited about what's happening in that community, and it's benefiting that community. So I just want to thank everyone for their support and all the votes and all the things we've been working on with this project.
Motion approved on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1690, resolution providing for the issuance of a warrant in the total sum of $7,815.22 in favor of Eileen Papali as final settlement related to an action filed in the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations.
Need a motion to hold for executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Invoices on the table. Need a motion for the invoices. Need a second. Any questions, conversation about the invoices? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. There are no interdepartmental transfers on the table. There are P cards on the table. Need a motion for the P cards.
Second.
All those in favor of the P cards, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. That brings us to a next bill, please.
Bill 1728, Resolution amending and supplementing Resolution Number 850, providing for the design, repairs, maintenance, improvements, emergencies, and/or the purchase of materials, equipment, and supplies in connection with the Wenzel Avenue, Carnegie Road
Carnegie.
intersection project, and providing for a reimbursement agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and providing for the payment of the cost thereof, not to exceed $2,200,000 to account for bid amount higher than originally anticipated, but not to exceed $2,886,871.33.
Excuse me for not announcing the committee. It's the Public Works Committee. Ms. Kell Smith is the chair. I need a motion, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. A motion to approve, brief discussion.
Need a second, Ms. Smith?
And I'll just say, this is a project, Councilman Coghill, Director, I don't know if you want to come to the table for some of the bills. But this is a project, it's real brief. We've been working on it. We've passed things with this repeatedly over the past several years. I think it actually started prior to this administration, if I can recall. And it's a project that Banksville has been waiting for a long time. And I'm just happy to see, again, additional funding coming to southwest of the river. And this is just one more thing, working with the administration, state, and everyone working together to do what's right for the community. This project will finally happen.
Any other conversation, Mr. Coghill?
Yes, I want to thank Councilwoman Teresa Kell Smith for her work on this. This is lies at the bottom of the hill where I live. Even though it's in the councilwoman's district, my district probably uses it a lot more coming up and down the hill. And Karina, while you're here, I wanted to ask you, when is that project going to start? Any ideas?
So Karina Ricks, Director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. It will start as soon as we can fully award the contracts. It has been bid. The awards came back, which exceeded the estimated cost of the project. That's what this bill is to do, is to put the necessary funds in place so we can begin that project.
So my neighborhood was asking me about this the other night, and on the Wenzel side, the steps that kind of protrude into the road, will they be removed?
There is a separate project to improve the steps.
Okay.
Yeah.
In conjunction, will they be going on around the same time? Will we move them?
We're hoping that they'll go in the same time. We'll be coming
and we're going
to
to put a turning lane in at the bottom there?
Yeah.
Going on to Banksville Road? Yep. And so when we're talking about across the street of Carnahan, that work's going to start first?
Yeah. So for the public, there is a project information sort of website on the DOMI, project information on the DOMI website that shows some of the diagrams of the improvements and what will be done, and that's probably where I would direct people to get.
Is it possible to get the actual, do you actually have artist renditions of that?
I would not call them artists.
Yeah.
They're engineering drawings, that describe what the
my community,
lane
and I'm
assignments will be.
particularly interested in as far as it'll be a huge improvement coming up. It's like a go path now at bottom of the hill. When trucks come around there, they scrape the steps, and the steps are kind of in disrepair, and they have been for a long time. So I look forward to seeing that underway. Thanks.
Yeah, his house is the big house up on the hill.
I just have a question, not about this project, but then 1736.
Yep.
And I asked Councilwoman Smith, we sort of had a sidebar yesterday about this. Why are our bids coming in so low, and then we have to add? Is it because the project's taken so long? Or who do we hire to give us that number, and then we're $800,000?
Yeah, it's not. And I had the same question as to why some of these bids. It's a lot of it are material costs. Good news, bad news is that we're now a growing city, so that there's more competition for resources. There's more competition for labor. That drives the costs up. We have seen a increase in some of our material costs due to the Chinese tariffs. Because some of our materials are sourced there. So
who is doing our bids?
It varies. We have different, so there's always an engineer's estimate. Both of these projects.
Internal, or is
No,
it
these are
rehiring
consultant, and
somebody?
they are confirmed by PennDOT. So both of these projects are also
I see
involve state
reimbursement
funding.
from state,
So
yeah.
they've been quality controlled by the state as well. It's just a circumstance, and PennDOT is finding their bids are coming in over their engineers' estimates as well.
Okay.
It's
So it's
most,
all across the board bids
Yeah,
are
it's
coming
most
in
likely associated with just the changing market, which I suppose is a good sign.
And this is a project from how many years ago? So I think that always.
Wenzel is Wenzel
they
is an older
initially
project.
did.
Southside Neighborhood Streets is not, but the cost estimates are updated before we go to bid, so they are current at the time that we go to bid, and we've seen cost estimates increase for the List Street wall. Many projects are coming in over what the estimates are. It's really just a sign of a tight economic market.
Yeah, that's my question on that one and the next one.
Yeah.
That was it. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Connor. I will suggest, anyone else? If no one else, I will suggest that the growth you see going on in Councilwoman Smith's area has a lot to do with her leadership and her tenacity. She is absolutely one of the most effective members of council and my friend. We have a motion to approve on
pray
the
a lot,
table.
okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1732, resolution
Thank you, Director.
providing for a resolution to extend a city controller contract with Allied's Communication by extending the term of the agreement through December 31st, 2019, and an additional cost not to exceed $50,000 for fleet GPS tracking services.
Need a motion, Ms. Smith?
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't.
I don't have any either.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1736, resolution amending and supplementing resolution number 370, providing for the construction of the South Side Neighborhood Street project to account for bid amount higher than originally anticipated and not to exceed $892,017.
Need a motion, Ms. Smith?
Motion to approve.
Need a second? Second. We already had that conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. It goes to deferred papers, please.
Bill 1637, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Parks and the Department of Public Works to enter into a lease agreement with the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater for a portion of real property located on Liberty Avenue between 29th and 30th Street.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve with discussion.
Need a second?
I'll
Need a
defer to-
second?
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. Ms. Smith?
I'll defer to
She's
Councilwoman
deferring to Councilman Gross?
Thank you so much. So I've been talking with, and the administration has been talking to the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater about this concept of theirs for some time. I think there is a path forward. I think this is premature, and I've talked with Director Gable about it in the last 2 weeks. The property being mentioned here, and I just want to have this on the record, is Denny Park. And if you're on Liberty Avenue and the ballet is on your right and Denny Park is on your left, was bequeathed to the city of Pittsburgh by its first mayor, Ebenezer Denny. And so the ballet is looking to increase their parking capacity, but there is some mixed opinion about their idea of putting increased parking on the city park that was bequeathed to it by its first mayor. So we're still in discussions about that. And so I would like to motion for a 2-week hold so I can follow up.
Second.
Property moved in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1641, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure to execute relevant agreement to receive grant funding from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation to provide support for DOMI to build upon existing autonomous vehicle testing and a planned autonomous deployment by expanding public and neighborhood engagement efforts regarding how AVs are deployed and managed, and further providing for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $410,539 for this stated purpose.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve with discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director, could you please come to the table again?
Conversation. Ms. Smith?
Thank you. Thank you, Director, again. And once again, could you introduce yourself for the public?
I'm Corinne Ricks. I'm the director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure.
So I held this bill and asked that you work with the public, and I just heard that you did, and I'm happy that those conversations have happened. I'm going to move this bill forward today, but I'm going to suggest a couple things. I want a group of folks to work to submit any kind of amendments that they'd like to see before next week, including the labor union that was here, if they'd like to submit some suggestions to us so that council can put those in place, possibly working with the council member who represents the area and the administration. We'll work to put in place some of the things that will address their concerns. The other thing I'm going to say is that I'm going to call for a post agenda so that we can talk more about this entire topic, because I think the city of Pittsburgh wants to have a voice in this, and I think it's time that we I think that we hear a lot about the autonomous vehicles, and we know that this is the administration's agenda. And I understand that the mayor's goal is to grow the city and to also move us into the future and to make sure that we're moving forward. I don't know that, and I know that in some ways his agenda was validated by his election, because he's made it clear that was his agenda. So the public has spoken. This is the agenda that they support. Although I think there's a lot of the public that did not vote and do have concerns and may not have support this idea after learning more and more about it. My niece lives she's a professor at the University of Berkeley, and she sent me a really interesting article about how that area is realizing that they made a huge mistake in moving so much technology and focusing so much on technology, because it has lost the human factor. A lot of jobs have been lost. Companies are moving out hundreds at a time out of California. There's a lot of reason to look at what's already happened and say that's not where we want to go. We don't want this to be the steel mills of the city of Pittsburgh decades from now, that we relied so much on one industry and it was not where we really need to go. So I'm going to say we're going to have some public conversations. I'm going to make sure that we have some public conversations, and I'm going to suggest that we don't apply for any more grants until we have some conversations with the public, and so that we're not in a situation where now we're thinking, okay, we either have to pass this or miss the opportunity for a grant. But this grant money, I want to make clear, is an opportunity for the public to have some say and some conversation. I don't want it to be that it's, one of the things I've never liked is when community meetings are controlled, and where people don't really get an opportunity to say what's really on their mind, but you get the result that you hire the consultant that's going to get you the result to say what you want them to say. I like real conversations and real hearing truly from people. So with that said, I know you worked really hard on this. I want to thank you for your work on this. I want to thank your department for their work on this, and the administration. But I think that we're going to start having some serious conversations and move forward. But with that said, I don't know if Councilman O'Connor wants to call for the post agenda, or if you want me to, if you don't mind.
If you want to.
Motion to call, motion to, we're going to pass this today, and then after we take the vote, I'm going to call for a post agenda. And then, so if anybody has any suggestions, please email them to us or contact Councilman O'Connor's office or mine or the administration prior to the final vote next week.
Councilwoman, can I describe just a little bit what the grant is, because it's clear from the public testimony that there's some misconception about. First of all, the James Knight and Foundation is a foundation that was founded by a newspaper, and so they are related to kind of conveying public information and engaging in education and awareness that contributes to democratic decision making, and that's one of the sort of tenets of the foundation. The intent of this grant, I'm uncertain where the perception has been forwarded that the intent of the grant is to promote or market autonomous vehicle technology. And in fact, the intent of the grant is to engage in the authentic discussion that many of the public testified is desperately needed. The Knight Foundation typically invests their foundation resources only in communities that had Knight newspapers in them. Pittsburgh is not one of those. We are not a Knight city. However, because we have this intimate experience of having autonomous vehicles on our streets that are readily available for observation from the general public, we have some important insights to offer to the rest of the country and to the other Knight cities where it's just a hypothetical kind of experience of autonomous vehicles. So many of the things that the testifiers advocated as being necessary, which was to have discussion about some of the very important impacts that autonomous vehicle technology may bring to the built environment of our city, to the economic outlook of our city, to the quality of community, to the experience of sharing the street. All of these things are intended to be part of this discussion and why
So
this is necessary.
I hear what you're saying, but what I want to make sure is that the people that are here today really brought up some serious concerns, and I mean, and when I hear the union speaking, and I think, my God, are we going to do the same to them as we did, same scenarios that we had with the steelworkers? I mean, I don't want to see our unions out of work, and so I mean,
right.
it's going to be a serious.
It is, and we need to get
conversation.
ahead of this discussion, and that's precisely what
sure.
this is intended to do.
And that's what I want to make sure we're doing. I mean, so I want to make sure that council is aware of every meeting that's scheduled in advance. I want to make sure that I want to know how you're marketing the meetings, that you're getting into you're actually sending this list to the people that are here complaining, or you're bringing concerns. I think that they have valid complaints and valid concerns, and as you said, there's also some significance in the way that the message is getting out that the grant is intended for some things that it's not intended for. So I think that the clear communication matters, and I think that we need to do better in that whole area. But at the same time, I hear residents when they talk, and so I want to make sure that we're addressing their concerns. So with that said, I'm going to, after, if there's no further discussion, is there any further discussion?
Yes, there's a couple of people, yes.
After they're done, I'd like to come back and call for a post-agenda, and I will also ask folks to email us. But I also think that one of the things we're going to move forward with is having a committee to work on this together.
Yes.
Of people that are not just like-minded people, but people that have concerns as well, including the unions. So.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes, so thank you. I think, first of all, I have a question. Can we make amendments to this bill?
To
The bill itself, not the grant.
Sure,
But can we
you can
amend
make
the bill
amendments
that's in there? Okay, because some grants you can't
Well,
make
the-
amendments to, and that's the rules and regs on them.
Well, we're going to amend it.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we're going to
the
amend it. I
grant
just wanted to
agreement
ask
is
that.
established, and so if that,
Right.
we can't use the grant for purposes other than
Okay.
what it was intended for.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to abstain today because I want to write some amendments, talk to council members, as Councilwoman Smith mentioned, and also meet with residents of the community. But I think what they're saying is that I don't think they mind that you guys are going to do public outreach. I think we want to set the standard for what that outreach looks like. And we can amend the bill to set, and I don't think that you would have an issue with that.
No.
So I'll abstain, and then we'll look at trying to work with your staff as well as all council members to write standards for how this grant is going to be rolled out to the communities when we have those conversations. So that was my only technical question. All right, thank you.
Okay, no, I'm just thinking it through. Next, I'll say something at the end. Ms. Gross.
Madam Clerk, may I have a copy of the print letter that you have? And I understand that it was emailed to us, but sometimes it's hard for us to pull up emails.
Yes, again, I'm just.
Specifically while we were in chambers.
I'll do that.
So I'm going to also mention and remind council members that it is possible to us to just simply do an amendment by attaching an exhibit, right, that sets some general parameters on, this is the bill. We were looking for the letter from the I think Ms. Deming sent us a letter. Didn't you hand the paper copy of your letter? Somebody give us a print letter. Thank you.
Yeah, we have it over here.
Okay,
So
so
we
we
have it
had letters, actual print
Ms.
letter.
Gross, we have it here.
Thank you. Yeah, may I have a copy?
Yeah, we have here. So.
And so I'm just going to look at it.
So
if
what-
you don't mind, I have to go
No,
on the
no,
floor,
what-
so I'm
when
going to
I-
read a little bit from it.
So when
And
I talk to
I
Ms.
have, I've got the floor still.
You know, what I was going to say is.
So I was going to suggest that some of the items that are in this letter that, again, has been emailed to the administration, and I'm assuming, Director Ricks, that you've got a copy of this. I guess we were all sent a copy in April. And again, I would look up in my email, but it's hard to do. That there are some suggestions here about how, the format should be, but also around the topic area. And I think we all heard from the testifiers today some very good issues that the director also emphasized around the impacts of autonomous vehicles on our infrastructure. And that's one of the things I think that is clearly in your purview and interest, right? So that, and how we as a council weigh the budgetary pluses and minuses of where we're allocating dollars to make the most public good for public benefit around things like actual safety improvements for pedestrians or alternative mobility versus high-tech improvements. And then also against how the adoption or the permission even of autonomous vehicles on some of our streets may be without our cognizance or I think what I heard from testifiers, even the public's this kind of creeping adjustment we may be making without the upfront conversation, right? Are we impacted by having autonomous vehicles already on our streets, and have we already kind of made accommodations that maybe we haven't been aware of, right? And so I think that's just an important moment to have that conversation and have a kind of internal check-in, right? And some introspection publicly, collectively, introspectively looking at how Pittsburgh has been impacted by autonomous vehicles, and then making more conscientious choices. And I think I heard some of that in what you were saying, Director, that we could easily accommodate that. And I see that look. I don't know why you're being skeptical and giving me the look, Councilman. So I think that's what I hear most of us being on the same page about. And so I just want to thank the public for coming in and raising this at the right time. So that we can have that conversation, and I look forward to having it in a post-agenda format, which is, I think, the appropriate place also to kind of get it into our legislative record, to dive more deeply, to have expert testimony that's there. The reason for a post-agenda is to have the expert testimony that edifies our public discourse. So thank you. I just wanted to have a print copy of that, and that's all I had to say, Councilman. I yield the floor.
Caulfield.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody that coming down that spoke on this today. I find, I usually learn the most when you guys come down here and you speak on behalf of whatever the issue is. I will say I'm not one that believes that, modern technology or autonomous vehicles will ever replace the human element. As you heard Steve and Ted speak to, the facts that, what's going to teach them to pull up a bit to let somebody else or help somebody on. So I'll never believe in that will come to fruition. However, we seem to be the leaders in this industry, I think, across the nation, or one of them. And I know it's important to the mayor and the administration. And this seems to be a harmless study at this point. But I just want to state going forward, if ever we see the day, and I think Steve's looking forward to generations maybe to come as much as anything. He and I will probably be long gone. At least, who knows? Maybe it is going that fast, but in my eyes, I don't think we'll see that come to fruition where it's replacing jobs. So if ever we'd come to the point where it's replacing jobs by robots, count me out, but I will support this today to further, look into what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I saw Ms. Harris.
Yes. I've been concerned about this since the beginning. I don't recall this coming in front of council to have these vehicles on the street, let alone almost being hit by one. And that was with a driver in it, let alone not a driver. I think we've been used as a guinea pig, and we rushed into this. There was so much information that we should be receiving that this company has built up over time, and that should have been given to the city of Pittsburgh. We just said, here, take Pittsburgh and use us as a guinea pig, and we're not asking for nothing in return, and we haven't received anything in return. I mean, they have a lot of information, that all the data that they have been getting on the streets and everything else. So the way it is right now, and the way it reads, talking about the deployment and expanding, especially with not a driver, I do not want anyone hit. whether they be in a car, a bicycle, someone walking across the street, or an animal for that matter. And until I see this written up different and seeing that this city has received something in return, I'm not for it.
So the Commonwealth, unfortunately or fortunately, is the determinant of who is legally permitted to operate on the streets of the state. That's not a municipal authority that we possess. Today, these vehicles all have a human driver behind them, and
Right.
therefore they do meet the standards that the Commonwealth has set. We have not identified yet the leverage that would permit the city to prohibit access of these vehicles on our streets. Thus, we have instead taken the position of working closely with the companies so that they understand what our priorities and values are. We have engaged, and Ms. Weens and Mr. Sandberg and others are members or have participated in a shared and autonomous mobility working group that has convened a few different times to develop what we call the Pittsburgh Principles, which is that statement of values that if you are operating here in the city, and council should have those, and they're certainly available on our website. If you are operating here in the city, doing any kind of testing or development in the city, it should be in concert with the values that we hold. Some of those values are specifically the preservation of mass transit and the promotion of mass transit, specifically the engagement of the public and stakeholders in decision-making around these. And in the executive order that was issued in March, the mayor did insist that all of the companies testing in the city acknowledged those Pittsburgh principles and will be held to abide by them. So there are limitations to our authority. A lot of it is at the moment voluntary, but we have asked them to acknowledge what the interests of us in a city are, that they're preserving the public safety, that they're sharing certain data with us so that we can understand at least the magnitude of the testing that's going on here, and we have received that data. But there are limitations that, I don't want to say unfortunately, but there are authorities that are held at the Commonwealth that are not held at the municipal level for some of these things.
So you're saying that we received all the data?
Some certain data.
But we didn't receive all the data.
We don't, again, have necessarily authority to.
But we're letting them use our city. And
it's
right
not-
now, they do have a driver.
They do.
What concerns me is how this is written, that they possibly might not have a driver, and a lot of what you said, it should be, instead of it won't be. So at this point right now, the way it is written, I don't think it's safe for the city of Pittsburgh to expand, particularly the way it's written, and it possibly could be without drivers.
It cannot. The Commonwealth presently today does not. There is no authority to operate without a driver. Again, that would be a Commonwealth decision, which regrettably the city doesn't have the authority to overturn Commonwealth guidance.
I mean, right now, we didn't make the right decisions when we brought it here. It was a rush job. We did not receive all the information that we should have. Said, hey, City of Pittsburgh would like all this. And I don't want to make another mistake and these go out there and possibly kill a person without someone in it. These are machines, and you see every day, particularly in the city of Pittsburgh, our computers break down. And they break down very often, and I don't want it to be at the expense of someone's life. So until I see it written differently where it absolutely that the city is getting something and that a human will be in the vehicle at all times. I can't vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, I do, and you have to excuse me, I do sometimes make faces when I'm thinking, and after 34 years of marriage, my wife still can't figure out my faces. So, they must not be consistent. What I was actually, and so, although there are times I advocate for specific things, normally when I'm chairing the meetings, I'm actually thinking about how to do what you want done and what's the best way. And that's actually what I was thinking, is how to get accomplished what members want. So here's what my suggestion is. Again, it's just a suggestion. In this grant application, council has many different functions. When we're functioning as a quasi-judiciary responsibility in terms of zoning and things like that, we can absolutely attach demands on those pieces of legislation, and they are, if we've learned from the courts, those are legally binding, right, and liquor transfers. This is not that. We're not in that role. So to get what, I think, in order to get what you want done, what I would suggest to you, don't have to take it, is what you really want to do is you want to amend the bill by adding adding an attachment. And my suggestion for you is to negotiate that attachment with the administration rather than do it individually. I think that's the best way to do it. I would have Director Ritz and Mr. Connor, and that you can work out, Councilwoman Smith, and I'm just saying that there's a group of you to work out these understandings and then attach it by amendment to the resolution. That's the way I would suggest that you move forward, and that's all I was thinking. There's a motion to approve on the table.
No. So I just want to also respond to that. So that's what we intend to do, but I don't want us to do things. I've been here long enough to realize doing something like this that's significant to the administration is counterproductive to achieving what you really want to achieve. We obviously want to work together, and I think that the administration, from previous phone calls I've had, feels the same way. So I think they want to achieve what we all want to achieve. So I don't think we're at odds. This is just what I want to say.
Motion to approve on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, aye. Opposers, nay.
Nay.
One nay. And now, yes, Mr. Wait a minute, Mr. Cross. Can you give me 1 second? Miss Gross, you are.
Yeah, I would like to register an abstention too. I'd like to see the amendments. So.
Do you want to do this? Let's do roll call vote.
Can I just ask one more thing too? I'd like to see the list of the working group on who's on the.
Let me go through roll call votes so we'll have our votes straight, please.
I just want to make sure you know the reason I'm voting no is because of how this is
Yes,
written.
you mentioned that.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Coghill?
Aye.
Mrs. Gross?
Abstain.
Mrs. Harris?
No.
President Kraus?
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Abstain.
Mrs. Kell Smith?
Aye.
Reverend Burgess?
Aye.
Good phone guy.
We have 5 ayes, 1 no, and 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much. Now, next we will entertain a motion by Ms. Smith to host a Cablecast public
Post agenda
on autonomous vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members. Thank you, Director. That takes us to new papers.
Actually,
But hold on.
I'd really like to see a public hearing with a post agenda also.
There's a second motion you can make
Motion for a public hearing.
on autonomous vehicles.
Yes.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. All right, we will have both a
we'll
public
schedule
hearing
the same
and a
day.
post agenda, probably on the same day, probably back to back, where you would have the public hearing at first, probably at 10 o'clock, and then the post agenda or vice versa. But probably I would do the public hearing first. But that's you guys' call. You will coordinate it with the clerk. Next new paper, please.
Bill 1701, resolution granting unto City Reformed Church their successors, and assigns the privilege and license to construct, maintain, and use at their own cost and expense a handicap ramp at 3929 Coleman Street in the 15th Ward, 5th Council District.
I need a motion, Ms. Smith.
Motion to approve.
Need a second. Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1702, resolution granting unto City Studio, their successors, and assigns the privilege and license to construct, maintain, and use at their own cost and expense a handicap ramp and railing at 2700 and 2702 Shadeland Avenue in the 27th Ward, 1st Council District.
Need a motion, Ms. Smith.
Motion to approve.
Need a second.
Second
Any conversation? Conversation, Ms. Harris.
I just told you, the director.
You have conversation, Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Director?
I apologize, Director. I told you we would.
Is this cafe on the corner?
Is this cafe on the corner? 1702. Hold on. Let me see. 1702?
No. This is not. I'm answering Darlene's question.
This is not Coleman, this is Penn Avenue? Which one is this?
No,
City
it's
City Studio, okay.
Shadeland Avenue.
It's the last one here, Director.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the right.
Because I thought they were 2900 block.
2702 Shadeland Avenue.
Okay, here it is, sorry. Too many papers here. And your question is?
Is this cafe on the corner?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, here, I'll show it to you.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I know they applied
Yeah.
about 6 months ago, and when we lost Richard. Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to approve on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Thank you very much. That
Thank you,
exhausts
Director.
the Public Works Committee. That takes us to Land Use and Economic Development Committee, where Ms. Gross is the chair. You can read Bill 6.
all the bills together?
Yes, I was just going to do that, yeah. 1691, you can read them all, actually, everything in the committee.
Bill 1691, resolution amending Resolution 282, so as to correct typographical errors and to perform a name change from Alliance for Health and Well-Being to Allies for Health Plus Well-Being. Bill number 1692. Resolution amending Resolution 283 so as to correct typographical errors and to perform a name change from Alliance for Health and Well-Being to Allies for Health Plus Well-Being. Bill number 1693. Resolution amending Resolution number 201 so as to reprogram funds within City Council from Hill Dance Academy Theater and Neighborhood Works WPA and transfer these funds to Shenley Heights Community Development Program, $6,000. Bill number 1694, resolution amending Resolution number 202, so as to reprogram funds within City Council from Hill Dance Academy Theater and Neighborhood Works WPA and transfer these funds to Shenley Heights Community Development Program, $6,000. Bill number 1695, resolution amending Resolution number 55 so as to reprogram funds within City Council from Hill Dance Academy Theater, $5,000, and transfer these funds to Manchester Citizens Corporation. Bill number 1696, resolution amending Resolution number 54 so as to reprogram funds within City Council from Hill Dance Academy Theater and transfer these funds to Manchester Citizens Corporation, $5,000.
That's all?
We got another deferred paper, but
Okay,
that's
that's
a
all the
different-
ones. Okay, although, I need a motion, Ms. Gross.
Motion to approve.
Second, all those in, second, there was second? Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. I didn't see anything else in the Public Works, in, the next thing I see is, that's another committee, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Nothing else in that,
What's it?
when you said, yeah, you was like,
Yeah, we got other
yeah,
papers,
okay.
just that
Yes, I
committee,
didn't
so.
see anything else in that committee. That takes us to Intergovernmental Affairs Committee. Mr. O'Connor is the chair.
Bill 1514, resolution adopting the plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewer facilities plan for the 21st and Smallman Mixed Commercial Development Project. The site is located on the north side of Smallman Street between 21st and 23rd Street in the 2nd Ward.
Need a motion, Mr. Connor? Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1697, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewer facilities plan for the Bracken Ridge phase of the residents of Oak Hill, which is the ongoing redevelopment of the former Aliquippa Terrace housing project located along Oak Hill Drive between Wadsworth Street and Bracken Ridge Street in the 5th Ward of the city.
Need a motion?
Motion approved.
Need a
Second.
second? Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1698, resolution approving the approval of the 2019 Housing Opportunity Fund Annual Allocation Plan.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Need a
Second.
second? Conversate?
Discussion.
We've had, if not, all those
Okay,
those
no, I'm
in
good.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1699, resolution authorizing the URA to acquire all the city's rights, title, and interest of any into the publicly owned properties in the 15th Ward of the city, Council District 5, 168 Hazelwood Avenue.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1700, resolution authorizing the URA to acquire all the city's right, title, and interest, if any, into the publicly owned properties in the 21st Ward of the city, Council District Number 6.
I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any other conversation? See no conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. All right, I'm going to make, I think that exhausts the agenda. I'll make 2 announcements. One statement, Jessica Smith Perry, you are a rare treasure to our city. I have the highest amount of respect for your professionalism and what you have brought to this city. And so one of the reasons why council is so quick to approve things that you are attached to is because your level of capacity and giftedness and expertise and professionalism. I just want to make that statement publicly.
Make something too.
All right, so at the request of OMB, the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget invites residents to potholes and pierogies dinner and a discussion of the 2020 capital budget. These public meetings provide citizens the chance to learn about budgeting process, to talk with residents about priority projects, to pose questions to a panel from the city departments, and to provide valuable feedback for the 2020 capital budget. The first meeting of the evening of Thursday, June 13th at the Children's Museum on the north side. The second will be the evening of Tuesday, June 18th at the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers on the south side. Child care and interpretive services are available for those who register by June 9th. For more information and to register, go to pittsburghpa.gov/OMB/CIP. All right. Mr. Kraus. Yes.
I just want to take a moment to recognize the clerk's efforts in providing the blue phone system for us to be able to attend meetings where we can't be there in person. I can't tell you what it's like to be on this side now as compared to what it was before. The system is light years improved, and I just want to take a moment to thank the clerk for our efforts in making certain that even though we can't be there physically, we can still be connected electronically.
Thank you very much. As always, we have a very active and
Efficient.
bringing us into the 21st century, making us look good all the time, clerk. All right, and so Ms. Smith.
So I also want to thank Jessica Smith Perry and her team and the folks that are organizing in the community and doing the things to make sure that we're getting this housing opportunity fund up and running. I'm so happy to know that they were in Sheridan last night and that they are working in our district really hard. There's a couple things I do want to discuss a little bit more, and that's the evictions and to make sure that we're, avoiding those as much as we can. And I was still waiting for a confirmation from the law department that city council can in fact vote on the rental registry, the funding, because we have conflicting reports, and I've sent a email to our law department 3 months ago asking to make sure so that we're not all in the middle of something that we shouldn't be. And so I'm waiting for that from the law department. So by next week, if we don't have it, I may consider recommitting the bill. So I'm just saying that right now because we need that for city council to at least protect ourselves in our votes.
Gill.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on, with Jessica and the Housing Affordable Act. You know, I'll admit, I was very skeptical if my neighborhood would benefit from it. But I want to thank you all for engaging me, Jamie, coming to the office, and actually seeing proof that, you know, it's already benefiting at least a couple homeowners, or new homeowners, I believe. So there are parts of this I do believe now that we can benefit from, and I hope that we will. But again, thanks for not giving up on me. You know, I look forward to using that opportunity in my neighborhood.
It's so exciting seeing the public so excited about it when you present. I just want to say that. It's really exciting.
Any other conversation? Seeing no other conversation, I'll entertain a motion to excuse the absent member, approve the minutes, and adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. We are adjourned.